To Talk, Read, Talk, Write, an engaging approach to teaching, presented by the Department of Multicultural Education. Let's take a look at the overview. Talk, Read, Talk, Write is a process for classroom collaboration that provides students a way to access content area information while building academic language. It is meant to replace teacher lecture lesson delivery. That doesn't mean that the teacher is not teaching. What it means, it replaces the structure of the classroom where the teacher is just standing and lecturing the entire time. It requires students to read academic text. It focuses students' attention on text to gain and deepen understanding. And it incorporates structured opportunities to talk and write about the content. Let's take a look at what TRTW is and is not. We just talked about some things that TRTW is. One of the key points is that it is a process that helps the students think about and understand what they want to say. It's a focus on the text, and it is a structured opportunity to talk and write about the content. But it is also flexible, and it can be a shared approach rather than an independent task. Let's look at what TRTW is not. It's not meant to replace all other forms of lesson delivery. It's not meant to be only focused on the teacher. The teacher is a facilitator. It is not meant to replace reading and writing because it focuses on reading and writing. And it is not a scripted lesson or lesson plan, rather a process. If you have any ELLs in your classroom, they might be sitting at the beginning, developing, or expanding level in the English language proficiency. If you have students that are beginning speakers, you might want to chunk the text. As you can see in the first column under beginning, the read part is smaller and there's more opportunities to talk, which means that you might want to have mask texts or chunk the text into digestible pieces and have more opportunities to talk in between. When the student is more into the developing side of the English language proficiency, the text might be a little bit longer and there'll be still lots of opportunities for talk, but it might not be as frequent. And in the expanding, the student might have more proficiency in reading at that point, and the talk can be a little bit more intentional and more in-depth. Now I want you to take a piece of paper and I want you to section it off into 4 quadrants. As you see on the screen right here, you will divide your paper or you will draw a line to make 4 quadrants and you will write talk 1, read, talk 2, and write. What I would like for you to do with this is, as I do the following part of this presentation, I want you to jot down in each section what you notice that I am doing as a teacher and what the student is expected to do as a student. Okay, here we go. So now I will be presenting to you not as your presenter anymore, but as a teacher. And I want you to put on your hat as like if you were a student. So you might be asking yourself, what does this look like? How can I incorporate this in my classroom? You can incorporate Talk, Read, Talk, Write into any content area, but in the next following minutes, we're going to be looking at it through the lens of an ELA teacher. This in particular is a text that comes from Unit 1 in Benchmark titled Animal Adaptations. As you can see, the standards on the right-hand side are taken directly from Benchmark. So remember, as you're jotting down in each quadrant, I want you to think about how I tied in those learning targets and infuse the Talk, Read, Talk, Write process. So let's take a look at the standards. The standard is to use grade level academic vocabulary appropriately in speaking and writing. You're expected to read grade level text with accuracy, automaticity, and appropriate prosody or expression. And the learning targets for this lesson are to develop vocabulary, read an informational text, ask questions before, during, and after reading, and share ideas with peers. Okay, here we go. Okay, class, what do you see? Take a look at this picture right here. Think about it for a second. What do you see? Okay, when you're ready to answer, I want you to give me a thumbs up. And when you answer, I want you to turn to your partner and I want you to say, I see, and then fill in the blank with what you see. There is no right or wrong answer. Okay, turn to your partner and say, I see, and then tell them what you see. Okay, go. First, let's think about what is Talk 1. Talk 1 is an open-ended conversation that is related to the lesson objective. The goals of Talk 1 are to attract students' attention, tap prior knowledge, activate students' thinking to accomplish the reading task, and provide pre-exposure to concepts addressed in the reading. Also, it sets the purpose for reading. So now, on your piece of paper, in the first quadrant that says Talk 1, I want you to jot down what you noticed I did as a teacher and also what you were expected to do as a student. Let's take a look at some Talk 1 strategies. You can ask a provocative or interesting question. For example, what if, or do you think, and why? You can respond to a visual. What details stand out in this photo? What does this picture make you think about? You can make a choice. Would you rather blank or blank? Why? If you were blank, would you pick A or B, and why? Or you can react to a quotation. Do you agree or disagree with this quote? What is your reaction to this statement? Does this still hold true today? The Talk 1 strategy can look any way which you like depending on your student's level of English proficiency. Okay, let's put our teacher and student hat back on. Okay, class, today we're going to be reading a text called Animal Disguises. Let's take a look at the essential question. How do animals survive? That is what we're going to be able to answer by the end of today's lesson. How do animals survive? Take a look at that word survive. We're going to figure out what it means to survive as we read the text. But first, let's take a look at some vocabulary. I want you to repeat after me. Advantage. Okay, advantage means to have help. Take a look at that picture. What is the man in the front doing? What is the man in the back doing? Let's look at our next word. Repeat after me. Predator. A predator is a hunter or a meat eater. Look at the picture. Which one is the predator? What is he doing? Let's look at our next word. Repeat after me. Prey. Prey is hunted by another for food. Look at the picture. Which one is the prey? What is the prey doing? Now let's look at our last word, disguise. Disguise can mean undercover or a cover-up or camouflage. Look at the picture. What is different about this animal? Okay, class, now we're going to read the text. Now I want you to think about, as we're reading the text, what are we looking for? I want you to pay attention to the words advantage, predators, and prey. So as I read the text, I'm going to stop at these words and I want you to read these words for me. Okay, ready? Let's go. Animal disguises. All animals have special features that help them survive or stay alive. Sometimes the way they act or behave gives them an advantage. They also have physical features that improve their chances of survival. For example, animals that hunt for food are called predators. The animals these predators hunt are called prey. Both predators and prey have traits that help them hide from one another. Great job, class. Let's reread this section of the text. I think it's very important. Now I want all of us to read together. Okay, I'm going to start in just a moment, but I want you to try and follow along as we read together. Ready? Let's go. All animals have special features that help them survive or stay alive. Sometimes the way they act or behave gives them an advantage. The animals these predators hunt are called prey. Nice job. Okay, now let's put our presenter and presentee hat back on. What is read? We know what reading is in general, but as far as a process goes, what is the reading part? The reading part is when students acquire new content area knowledge from a text. The student does the work. The student will identify text structure and read with a purpose. The student will individually, chorally, or engage in partner reading. And the student will read the entire section, use strategies accommodations as applicable. So as you can see, some of my students might not have been able to read that whole text, but I gave them an opportunity to engage in the reading. Now on your piece of paper, on the quadrant that says read, I want you to jot down what I did as a teacher and what you did as a student. Okay, now let's talk about some active reading strategies. If you can tell on the reading portion that I just did as a teacher, I had a pay attention to list or a PAT list. The purpose of this is to determine key vocabulary, sentences, or paragraphs to pay close attention to, and it provides a clear purpose for reading. You can also do Highlight Plus, where readers highlight important ideas from a text, or readers can explain highlighted text orally in writing, which is the plus part. You can also do annotation, where readers identify a connection, an inference, ask a question, add a comment, or paraphrase an idea. Okay, now let's put our student and teacher hat back on. Great job, everybody. Now I want you to think about the essential question again. How do animals survive? We're going to turn to our partners and we're going to fill in this blank. But first, let's take a look at what we're going to be saying to our partner. Blank, have blank to give them an blank over their blank to survive. Now don't worry, we have a lot of support to help us fill out this long sentence. While you're finishing your work and you're answering your question, I want you to use the words in the word bank. And those words are advantage, prey, predator, and disguises. Now I want you to take a look at the right-hand side. I'm going to break it down to you in each section to better help you finish your answer. Blank have, now take a look at the image right next to it. Blank to give them, and blank over their blank. Okay, when everybody's ready to fill in these blanks and say their answer to their partner, I want you to give me a thumbs up. Okay, very good. So now turn to your partner and tell them your answer. Okay, now let's put our presenter and presentee hat back on. What is talk to? Talk to should be in small groups. Students talk to clarify concepts and deepen their understanding of the lesson content. The goals of talk to are to use conversation to process the text and prepare for writing. Students compare their understanding of the text with other students. Students gain and develop new ideas to help improve their writing. Text and talk number 2 align with the content objective of the lesson. Now on your sheet of paper, on the quadrant that says talk number 2, I want you to jot down what you notice I did as a teacher and what you did as a student. Okay, let's talk about some talk to strategies. You can have an envelope please activity where you place 1 to 3 open-ended teacher-created questions about the text in an envelope. The student groups discuss the answers to the questions. You can have variations of that. Student groups can have the same question or different questions. Envelopes can have more than one question for student groups to choose a question they would like to answer. You can also have a check-in conversation. Student groups discuss their thinking from the text. Student groups brainstorm ideas for writing. Okay, now let's put our teacher and student hat back on. Okay, class, so I think that now we're ready to answer, how do animals survive? Remember, the words in our word bank are advantage, predator, prey, and disguises. Now we're going to write out our answer. Remember, we have the images on the bottom or pictures to help us fill our answers in. Let's read our sentence stem again. Blank, give, blank, and blank, over there, blank, to survive. Take a look at those images and figure out what words you're going to fill in those blanks with. I'm going to be walking around to check on your answer choices. Okay, go. Now let's put our presenter-presentee hat back on. What is right? Students communicate their understanding of the content objective in writing. Students will generate their own thoughts, write to make compelling argument or to explain a topic fully, and students will write complete thoughts and sentences. Now on your piece of paper, where the quadrant that says write, I want you to fill out what you notice I did as a teacher and what you were expected to do as a student. Let's talk about some forms of academic writing. One form can be clear explanation. Writing a clear explanation means teaching information to someone else on paper. The explanation needs to be concise, easy to understand, and it has to provide the readers with all information needed to comprehend the topic. You can also make a claim with evidence. The goal of making a claim is to convince the reader to think the same way as the writer. This type of writing is called persuasive writing because it takes a position on an issue. A claim does not always have opposing sides. These are two examples from the Talk, Read, Talk, Write book on forms of academic writing. However, writing is not limited to these two. Writing can be anything depending on your student's language proficiency or literacy proficiency. Okay, let's take a look at what we just did. So let's organize our thoughts. If you look at your piece of paper, in the 4 quadrants, you could have had some of these examples. In the Talk 1, I had a very simple image where, as a teacher, I expected the student to think about what is in the picture and only very simply explain to their partner what they see. The answers can be as simple as the color they see or an animal they see, or it could be more detailed like the weather or the environment. The whole purpose of that Talk 1 was to engage and to spark background knowledge. In Talk 1, as you can see, we did incorporate the speaking and listening domains. In the read section, I had a pay attention to list where the students were encouraged to pay attention to the words advantage, predators, and prey. I engaged them by having them read those words as I came across them in the text. In the Talk number 2 part of the lesson, I had the students fill in the sentence stem using the words from the word bank. However, I scaffolded this lesson for some students in my group that might be beginning speakers with additional visual support for them to understand what words should belong in those blank spaces. And in the right portion, I took the same sentence, possibly you can modify it, but now they took what they read, what they talked about, and we turned it into a write, using the same images with consistency and fidelity so the students have multiple opportunities to use them. Here's TRTW at a glance. Let's recap. In Talk 1, students talk to each other in order to engage with the topic lesson. 2 great strategies for engaging students are to ask an interesting question or respond to a compelling visual. In the read, the students read a text to learn and apply content. The text can be a passage, a single sentence, word problems, graphic sources, calculations, etc. It is critical to give students a clear purpose for their reading. In the Talk number 2, students collaborate with each other to clarify and deepen their understanding of their reading. Offering students discussion questions that are relevant, rich, and response-worthy increases the quality of their conversation. And in the write section, students write to demonstrate their learning and express thinking. One way to increase motivation and quality of writing is to offer students sentence stems and or paragraph frames. Here are some strategies again in the 4 quadrants. These strategies are not limited to this document. I would take this opportunity to do a screenshot or a snippet tool, or even on your phone, take a picture of this slide. This is a recap of all the strategies that we went through in this presentation. I hope you enjoyed this presentation on Talk, Read, Talk, Write. If you need any further information or if you have any questions at all, here are the ESOL instructional specialists that can support you. Depending on what region you're in, there'll be a specialist ready to help you with anything you need. Thank you and have a great day.